A conflict that reignited tensions in the past and reshaped global politics forever. But why did Russia invade Ukraine? How did this war change the world? And what does the future hold? Let's dive deep into a war that continues to shape our world. To understand the war, we need to go back in time. Ukraine was once part of the Soviet Union, a vast empire led by Russia. But in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed and Ukraine gained independence. It was a moment of hope, but also one of tension. Russia never truly let go. For years, Ukraine tried to balance between Russia and the West, and in 2014, those tensions erupted when Russia annexed Crimea, sparking the first serious confrontation. It was a sign of things to come. In 2014, Ukrainians took to the streets, demanding closer ties with Europe. The protests led to the ousting of Ukraine's pro-Russian president. Russia saw this as a threat. In response, Russian forces moved into Crimea and annexed it. War erupted in the Donbass region, where pro-Russian separatists, backed by Moscow, fought Ukrainian forces. This was the beginning of a larger conflict that would explode years later. February 24, 2022. The world wakes up to shocking news. Russia has launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Missiles strike cities, tanks roll across borders, and millions of Ukrainians flee their homes. Russian President Vladimir Putin calls it a special military operation. The world calls it war. The West responded with sanctions, cutting Russia off from global finance. Weapons and aid poured into Ukraine. A full-scale war had begun. At first, many feared Kiev, Ukraine's capital, would fall in days. But something happened. The Ukrainian people fought back. Led by President Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukraine resisted. The world watched as civilians took up arms, and Ukrainian soldiers tried to push back against one of the world's most powerful armies. The war had a global impact. The world reacted swiftly. The war didn't just change Ukraine, it changed the world. Western nations imposed harsh sanctions on Russia, crippling its economy. NATO countries sent billions in military aid to Ukraine, tanks, missiles, and weapons. The war wasn't just being fought on the ground, but also in the halls of diplomacy and global markets. Energy and gas prices soared as Russian gas supplies were cut off. Food shortages hit Africa and the Middle East as Ukrainian grain exports were blocked. NATO grew stronger, with Sweden and Finland abandoning neutrality. And the geopolitical landscape shifted. Russia deepened ties with China, while Europe sought new allies. The war had set off a chain reaction far beyond its borders. This war was also fought in the digital world. Misinformation flooded social media. Russian and Ukrainian narratives clashed online. Hackers targeted government websites. The fight for global perception became as crucial as the fight on the ground. By late 2022, Ukraine launches counter-offensive, retaking key cities. The tide was turning. With Western weapons and fierce determination, Ukrainian forces pushed Russia back in several regions. The war wasn't over, but Ukraine had shown the world that David could stand against Goliath. But behind the battles and politics, there's a human tragedy. Millions were forced to flee their homes, families torn apart, children growing up to the sounds of air raid sirens. Over 300,000 soldiers and civilians lost their lives. Millions of Ukrainians became refugees, forced to leave everything behind. Cities like Mariupol and Bakhmut were reduced to rubble, dreams shattered. The scars of this war will last for generations. This war reshaped the world in ways we never imagined. NATO expanded, with Finland and Sweden joining the alliance. Russia grew closer to China. Global military spending soared as countries prepared for an uncertain future. And Ukraine, once seen as a smaller power, became a symbol of resilience and unity. As of now, the war is not over. Battles continue. Peace talks remain fragile. The future remains uncertain. Will there be peace? Or will this conflict continue to shape the world for years to come? Only time will tell. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think the future holds for Ukraine and the world? Let's keep the conversation going.